Okay, we're back. Welcome back to another episode of the Millennial Entrepreneur. My name's Sina. From starting my own business and getting funding from O2 while studying at university, I love following the journeys of other young entrepreneurs. Today I spoke to Eoin Sharkey. Now you want to listen to this episode because this guy is turning poo into fuel, helping poor families with sanitation issues and also providing fuel. We cover how he's achieving this while striving to be a for-profit company, talking about the technology behind it, and the challenges he's facing with the implementation, as well as talking a little bit about the recent £850,000 grant his project's received. Thank you so much for the support so far. It's been absolutely phenomenal. I really hope that you enjoy this episode. It's definitely an amazing one to record. And it was so interesting learning about how he's turning poo into fuel. Like, how does that even happen? So yeah, if you do enjoy, please be sure to share it with your friends, leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, leave a written review as well. Follow us on our new Instagram page, the link's in the description. That's where all the new episodes get announced, so it'd be really good to follow it. And yeah, let's get on with the episode. Hey Eoin, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Yeah, really good. How's the whole isolation treating you?
It's not too bad, actually. I've been quite productive here, actually. I've never really worked in an office, so it's not too different.
Is Biofactory still going in the whole
Yeah,
isolation, or is it kind of on frozen right now?
no, we're still pushing ahead. We've done a lot of things virtually up until now, and now that we've started our Innovate UK project, we're kind of all hands on deck at the moment. A couple of things have slowed down with looking for obviously a site and some building materials, but no, we're doing pretty well. We're just finishing our recruitment phase as well, which is fantastic, and had quite a lot of good applicants apply for our 2 engineering roles, which is great.
You must be one of the only companies in this whole period recruiting. A lot of
Yeah,
companies have
no,
put that on hold.
yeah, it's a weird position to be in. The way that our funding works is we're not really reliant on kind of the standard economy. A lot of the money that we're relying on for the next 2 years is grant funding and investment that we've already secured. So we're not really too affected by the market slowing down, which is great. Great for
That's
us,
good to
not
hear.
great for other people.
Yeah, great to hear because Biofactory is an amazing. When I researched you, I absolutely fell in love with the idea because it is something. It's a very socially driven business, and yeah, it was a real pleasure for me to invite you on, and I really wanted you on for a long time. So yeah, really good to have you on, and I think it'd be really good for you to actually explain the whole journey from start to where you are now.
Yeah, I'm more than happy. Well, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be a part of this, which is really cool what you're doing. I love the fact that you're talking with all these different inspirational entrepreneurs. So I guess where I started in this journey. So I'm half Kenyan. I've spent a lot of time over in Africa, and I've seen firsthand the problem that poor sanitation is while we're out there. So I've used I've used a type of toilet called a basic pit latrine quite a few times while I've been doing the old tourist thing and visiting friends and family. I'll explain to your viewers or your listeners what a basic pit latrine is, because I'm sure many of you haven't come across them
Yeah, I
before. But
like I don't know what
essentially,
that is. What is that?
yeah. Essentially, it's a hole in the ground that's dug by kind of your local labourer, and then they put a concrete slab with a hole in the middle on top of that, and then um, for the kind of cubicle area of the toilet, it's made out of corrugated iron. And sometimes they have a roof, sometimes they don't have a roof. They've usually got quite a rudimentary door, but essentially it's the most primitive form of constructed sanitation that's available, and over 3 billion people in the world use them or open defecate. And so it's a massive problem, these toilets, because they are often very poorly constructed and prone to collapse. So from my research, every time I searched kind of basic pit latrine collapse, there was an article from that previous week about how however many people, 3 people, fell into a pit latrine and died, or whatever. So I mean,
Wow.
is scary stuff. But essentially, yeah, these pit latrines, they promote bad hygiene, the spread of disease. They are often kind of the ideal environment for flying insects to nest, and so
Yeah.
you get a lot of insects that go in, put their eggs down, and then as the insects fly back out again, they take a um, small kind of particles of waste with them and spread them around to food sources or surfaces that people then go and touch. And then as those people are preparing food or as they're eating, that those waste particles go into people's mouths and kind of completes the fecal oral disease transmission line. And you get a lot of diseases through that, such as cholera and kind of diarrheal diseases that
Yeah.
really affect people's lives and kills quite a lot of people around the world. I think in Africa, over 200,000 kids die every single year from this exact problem. And
God,
so,
wow.
I mean, my experience of poor sanitation when I was growing up was a lot of kind of using basic pit latrines whilst out in Kenya, never really thinking too much of it. I would kind of go in, think, oh, this is really gross, and do my business and never really think about it throughout the rest of the day. But it wasn't until I did a stint of work in Kenya, working for a water engineering consultancy, that I really understood the problem from a public health perspective, and kind of learned all these facts about the sanitation problem. And in that project, or in my time there, we did a project for UNICEF and the government of Kenya, and that project was to design a manual for water sanitation and hygiene for primary schools. And so this was really looking into how can we design a universal toilet that works in all different kind of environmental scenarios across Kenya. How can we make it so that it's simple to build, it's low cost, and it's rugged, and it provides good sanitation and hygiene from it.
Yeah.
And it was really difficult. It was really difficult. We were kind of stuck between a wall and a hard place, with UNICEF wanting us to meet basic principles of sanitation through our designs, and the government of Kenya saying, "Oh, we can't pay that, or we can't fund you to be
Yeah.
sending, or we can't fund the schools to be building these kinds of things because they cost too much." Or
So
um,
it was a question of money at the
it
end of the
was a
day.
massive question of money. And the more and more I looked into it, the more and more I found that quite a lot of sanitation companies don't work because of the money and the business behind it. And that was a key driver for me in trying to develop the biofactory as a for-profit business that
Yeah.
allowed us to sustainably and uh, on a large scale implement these sanitation solutions. And so that was a real driver for me, was to really understand where the problem lied in the business aspect. So
Yeah.
what are the cost drivers in other companies, and how do I reduce them in order to make the margins big enough for us to kind of sustainably implement these sanitation solutions. And so I did a
Yeah.
lot of I did a lot of analysis through that project about kind of where the cost drivers were in standard construction of sanitation, and how we could potentially solve those problems. But then also looking at other businesses and understanding, all right, well, where do the cost drivers lie within those business models, and how do I overcome that? And then, and in fact, there was another project that I was doing for this water engineering consultancy in Kenya while I was there, on a completely separate project, but
Yeah, what were you, I
we
was
had
gonna ask,
the
what were you doing for them if it was a completely
uh,
unrelated project?
no. So with the water engineering consultancy, we worked on quite a few different projects. One of them was this manual for water sanitation and hygiene,
Oh, okay,
for
I
the
see.
UNICEF one, and then we did other projects as well. And with one of the other projects, we spent about a week up in the refugee camps in northern Kenya. And this was after I'd done a lot of research into sanitation, and I got there and I was like, I was seeing basic pit latrines all across the refugee camp, and I thought it was astounding that we were promoting on one side of the UN with this UNICEF manual, kind of upholding basic principles of WASH, which is water, sanitation, and hygiene, an acronym. And I thought it was ridiculous that on the UNICEF side we were promoting these basic principles of WASH, but actually in the camps where they were being installed, where these toilets were being installed by another UN body, they were the most primitive type of sanitation available. And I thought that was ridiculous. And then there must be a way of coming up with a solution for that. And so that led me to think about the biofactory and how I can build a business around implementing these solutions. So I came back to university at the University of Bath to finish my master's degree in engineering. And in my final year, so just after this time in Kenya, I started my final year project. I don't know how many of your listeners are engineers, but what tends to happen with engineering degrees is that your final semester is basically one massive project. And so I had a huge amount of time and opportunity to really look into coming up with a solution for this sanitation problem. And that led me down the route of looking at a product-based solution to really lower the cost of putting these systems in. So making a system that's portable, that's able to be installed quickly and basically anywhere, and then looking at ways of reducing the cost of operating those systems. And so I was looking at other business models, and I found that a big driver for cost was transportation of the waste from the toilet to wherever you're processing it. Because a lot of the communities we're working in are low income and often informal settlements, so they don't have any sewage systems. So it's quite expensive to do that transportation, or it's very, very expensive to put in the sewage lines. And so a lot of these people don't have that kind of luxury. And so treating the waste on site for us was a big driver. Trying to kind of reduce the operational costs and making it so that we can actually turn a profit from each system that we put in place. And so I came up with our system, which is essentially an all-in-one toilet and waste or community toilet and waste processing system that provides dramatically improved latrines. So we've got 5 toilets in each of our systems, and we capture and process the waste through a slightly improved version of anaerobic digestion into biogas and a soil conditioner. The soil conditioner we take off-site to farmland and use it as a almost like a fertilizer to grow crops. And the biogas we sell directly back to the end user as an alternative cooking fuel for charcoal. And now there's a whole host of problems with using charcoal, but I
definitely
don't necessarily know if
we probably won't go into that today. But we could do a whole hour discussion on that just in itself.
We could.
But the amazing thing that you've overcome with, so this was your final year university project essentially, right?
Yes, yeah. And then so final year project, and then I spun it out as a company with some support from the uni.
So the remarkable thing is that you overcame so many like problems with this solution. Like, as you said, it wasn't just a sanitation problem, it was also a money problem for people sponsoring this. And then also you have to find out a way to overcome the lack of a sewage system. There's just so many conflicting things that I think your system addresses so wonderfully.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think it covers a lot of bases, and I'm really excited about it. And we're actually over the next 2 years proving that it works in the market. So as you could probably tell, a lot of it is design based, and so we've got an idea for a solution, and we've got all these we've got all these elements of the design which address different problems, but we haven't been able to get the funds together to actually go out, build one of these systems and test it in the market. As you can imagine, a 6-person toilet with waste processing attached to it costs quite a bit of money, especially in the
Yeah,
development phase.
sounds expensive.
And so launching the company straight out of university, I had a lot of work on my plate to build up a business model that supports what we're trying to do. Um, I spent a lot of time looking at different ways that we could fund that development phase. And initially, I was looking at philanthropic donations, which uh, was actually it, it was actually quite bad for us to start looking at those. I think that delayed our progress quite a lot because
Yeah,
it confused the message. So we're driving for a sustainable business that generates an income
yeah, exactly.
in order to support itself. And I think looking for initial philanthropic donations gave the impression that we might be a charity, and
Yeah,
that's not what we are. And so I think that confused the message and
yeah,
drove
definitely.
people, drove investors away at the start. But we've recently got those funds together in order to head out to Mozambique over the next 2 years to build 3 systems and to test them actually in a live scenario, validate our business model assumptions, and start building a commercially viable company out of that.
I think whenever you kind of go down the whole donation route, there's always going to be questions around the scalability of your solution. Whether you're always going to
Yeah,
have to ask for more donations, just more money from rich individuals to solve this problem, when essentially it's meant to be something that sustains itself.
my theory is that building a sustainable business model, we don't have to go out and spend a lot of money trying to raise money. Obviously, you do with the investment rounds, but once that's over and once you're
Yeah,
starting to turn a profit,
it's different.
you use that profit to fuel your expansion and impact. And that's really what I want to see out of
Yeah,
Biofactory.
exactly. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So let me just simplify the idea a little bit more. So basically, it's a it's like a box, like a shipping container, which has 6 toilets in, as you said, and these toilets are a lot cleaner than what they have now, and not and so so they go do their business in these toilets, and the waste you can actually turn into a fuel that they can sell on with their communities.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. We so with the waste, what we use is a slightly improved version of a process called anaerobic digestion. And I can give a bit of a simple explanation about what that
Yeah,
process
please
is
do,
if you're
because you're
interested.
turning poo into fuel. How does that
Yeah.
happen?
So anaerobic digestion is the biological breakdown of organic waste into methane. So what we do with what anybody does to create this process is essentially get organic material in a liquid form. So mix it with water, trap it in a sealed container where oxygen can't get in, and a type of bacteria called a methanogen um, finds that environment particularly enjoyable, and so they multiply a lot and they outcompete other types of bacteria, and so they basically amass within this bioreactor that you've created and break down the organic material from from hydrocarbons basically into methane, and they get energy out of this and they can reproduce. But the useful byproduct for us is the methane that's produced out of this process. We collect that methane in a giant, um, well, essentially a giant bladder, which collects the gas, and then we clean it and pipe it down to a community kitchen where people can come along and they can use their mobile money or pay the local kind of supplier of that kitchen some money in order to access the cooking fuel. And what's really kind of unique about what we're doing is that we can provide almost a third of the fuel requirements of the community that we're putting these systems into. And we
Wow.
can do it at the same price as what they currently pay for charcoal. So if you imagine somebody in an informal settlement, such as a kind of a shanty town, they don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of kind of saved money either. They spend what they have in order to buy food and buy fuel. What we're doing here is we're providing this improved fuel at the same price that they buy the most basic fuel, um,
Yeah.
and that allows them to cook with a cleaner energy source, and it allows them to um, kind of have a healthier lifestyle, and they don't have to be breathing in all the smoke associated with cooking with
Yeah.
firewood and
Yeah.
charcoal. And that has
God.
huge health implications to these people. I think something well from
Yeah.
the statistics that we've looked at with our partners for this development project, about 70% of households have had respiratory problems from charcoal cooking in the last 5 years, which is an astounding number. I mean,
Yeah.
considering the city's only 500,000 people strong, that's almost what 425,000 people have had somebody in their
Yeah.
family with these respiratory problems, and we're talking kind of cancer or pneumonia, and big things that could kill
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
And so that's from kind of what spurred out of just a sanitation solution is really driving us forward now is the access for our users for
Who
clean
thought
energy.
who thought who thought that poo would be the substitute to fossil fuels? I had no idea that was even a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really surprising. Actually, I've the more I look into this, the more I'm astounded at what we can do with it. And first, well, some of my research has gone into looking at how much waste has been an effector for climate change. So I know
Yeah, it's
you and
massive.
your listeners probably know about uh, cows and them producing methane from their waste and burping and farting and all that jazz. It's it's even more astounding that pit latrines. So what we're doing with replacing them, pit latrines account for something like 5% of all human uh, greenhouse gas emissions.
What is pipitrines? Am I being stupid?
Oh, it's what I described before. So the hole in the ground. Um,
Oh, oh yeah,
yeah. So
okay.
the
Yeah.
rudimentary form of the toilet, essentially.
5% globally. Well, I mean, you did
Yeah.
say that, billions of people use this form of toilet, so it does make a
Yeah.
bit of sense if you think about it, but yeah, I didn't know any of
I
that.
was I was so surprised when I first heard it. I mean, I originally thought, it's got to be from power plants or it's got to be from
Yeah.
cars driving around, but 5% is quite a big number, especially the amount of impact we can have with changing them is quite
Yeah,
considerable.
just 5% is massive on the global
Mm,
environment.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you're not only addressing the pipitrines, emissions, but you're also, using it as a substitute for charcoal and other fossil fuels that they would otherwise use.
yes, yeah. And I mean,
It's remarkable.
it's almost twofold as well because those trees that they had to chop down can stay up and they can
Yeah.
well they're not recycling that carbon back into the atmosphere from the trees, which is
Oh, and
good.
this sounds way too good to be true. There must be a catch here. What's the catch?
Yeah. Well, the catch is we've got to prove that it works. So the technology's there for what we're doing. We've just got to prove that first of all that people will use our systems. So there's a cultural change that needs to happen from the communities that we work with in order for them to go from using their normal toilet or what they normally do to kind of alleviate themselves to going to use this new technology that they haven't experienced before. So that's the first hurdle that we've got to come across. And then the second one is utilizing the gas and understanding how we can reduce the barriers for those people to use the gas. Because imagine you're kind of you're in your own home, your own environment where you're traditionally cooking with firewood and charcoal, and then all of a sudden this new fuel comes along, and you first of all you've never really experienced cooking with gas before because LPG is too
Yeah.
expensive, and you've never you've never really utilized the equipment before, so it's all new technology, it's all unfamiliar. And then also you know that it comes from your waste, and so there's that stigma as well that we've got to overcome.
Yeah, it's
We've got to
true.
really promote the fact that this is a health incentive. It provides them more reliance on themselves instead of relying on kind of the charcoal that comes in, because sometimes that's not a stable market.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I know certainly in Kenya they had a logging ban in 2018, which meant that the price of charcoal went up through the roof, something like 25 times more expensive than it had been before. And so if this happens in other places, then you've got a massive problem with pricing. And
Mm.
and I think just generally having a cleaner, healthier fuel to use is an incentive, but there are definitely other barriers that we've got to
How
address, and
how are you going to
that's
overcome
only things that we can do through the development
how are you
program.
going to overcome all of those?
Yeah, with difficulty. But the first step for us is to put some systems in place and work with those communities to understand where the where the problems lie and how we can address those problems. And that's what we'll be doing over the next 2 years. So we'll be working very closely with our partners in Mozambique and some schools and some
Mm.
communities down there, where we can truly get some feedback on what we're
Yeah.
proposing. And then with that feedback, we can iterate on our design and make it better. We are working with so our partner in Mozambique is very involved in the communities already, doing a lot of development programs, and so we're bouncing off their relationship and their standing within those communities to um, help promote our systems and use of our systems and education around the sanitation risks and the benefits of having an improved
I see.
energy source.
How this all sounds like really good, but it also sounds really expensive. So how's the whole funding structure work for you? Because there must be a lot of funding that
Yes,
you need to raise for this.
yes, yeah. So with the development program, a lot of what we're doing goes in towards materials. So for building 3 systems, it gets quite expensive, especially because these are large systems, and they are using solar power, battery packs, kind of quite expensive items, um, and so it required us to raise a considerable amount of money in order to run this program and validate and allow us to validate our business model assumptions and our product within the market. And so a lot of my time went into figuring out a strategy for doing that before well, when I was setting up the company. And we had the opportunity to visit Kenya through Innovate UK's Energy Catalyst missions. What that is essentially a brokering mission between the UK and Kenya to allow UK companies to meet Kenyan companies and NGOs and funding partners and really understand the market in Africa and how our solutions can be utilized within those markets. And that got me onto looking at Innovate UK grants, and we proposed a project for Innovate UK, whereby it was essentially to validate our systems and our business model um, within Mozambique, and to test our systems within Mozambique, and basically bring the biofactory to a point where we could commercialize and start manufacturing and rolling these systems out. and we're working with several partners on that. So we're working with the University of West of England, who are doing a tech piece on us on an element of our system, and we're working with a charity based in Bristol, which is responsible for twinning of the city of Bristol and the city of Beira in Mozambique. And then we're working with an NGO based in Mozambique who are doing a lot of development programs there. And so we linked all together in order to build this project where we would validate basically our product and the way that we're going to kind of commercialize. Presented it to Innovate UK in one of the grant applications, and in December we were told that we were successful in getting a £850,000 project approved through Innovate UK, and then it was just a matter of raising some match funding for our work done at the biofactory in order to kind of fulfill that grant. Yeah, so
yeah, it is big numbers, a lot of zeros.
But yeah, which is scary considering I've never done anything like
what
that
was
before.
Kind of running through your mind when that email, I suppose, came through, and then that number wasn't the email, 850,000.
Oh, it was mad. I was actually in Kenya when I received the email, so I was out in the middle of nowhere. And we didn't have any phone reception, didn't have any internet connection, and I knew that the results were coming out that day, but we had no way of getting any information in this forest that we were in Kenya, and so we had to drive out of the forest and up to the nearest
just to
hill.
Find out the results.
Yeah, well, I actually got a phone call from one of our partners, and he told me we got it, and I just felt I was just astounded. Had to sit down for a little while on the.
That must have been a very nervous drive to the top of the hill.
Yeah, it was, but very, very worth it. Well worth it. I was super excited.
Have you spent all that? Have you spent all the money now? Or are you there's still some stuff you have to spend on?
Yeah, we've only just started the project, so we've been running it for about a month now. And the way the money works is that Innovate UK are providing about 70% of our funding, but we can only claim that back after we've spent it. So we had to raise private investment to match on that Innovate fund.
Oh, okay, I see.
And we're using that money we're basically spending that money and reclaiming it from Innovate UK as we go.
I understand.
So it's a bit awkward in terms of our cash flow, because
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, you
have to spend before you get it back.
Yeah, and they only repay you quarterly. So we've essentially got to spend money for 3 months, and then we've got to submit a claim, which takes about a month and a half for the money to get back to us. So we've almost got a 4.5 month cash deficit that we've got to manage.
Yeah,
which is quite interesting. And so we had to raise more than what we initially thought that we had to. But it's really exciting. It's really exciting, and we've got some really good investors involved.
It sounds really exciting. I want to ask 2 questions on the back of that.
Yeah.
How I guess the question in the forefront of my mind is how did you start piloting in Mozambique? Like, how did that sort of conversation come about? How did you even know where to look for something like that?
Well, we're based in Bath, and we're involved quite well. I'd say we've got good involvement in the entrepreneurial network around Bath, Bristol, and so I meet a lot of people, and one of the people that I met quite a long time ago actually is a guy called Dominic Byrne, and he's involved with a small charity based in Bristol, which is the Bristol Link to Beira. I think they are the charity responsible for the twinning of the city of Bristol and the city of Beira. And so we had started this conversation quite early on in the company's life, about how there's potential for us to work together. That really excited me. And it was a great place to pilot our systems because they've got a lot of experience in
Yeah,
the city.
definitely.
And it got to the point where we had this opportunity to apply for this grant, and it just made sense to go down that route. I think
Yeah.
I think they're a fantastic partner to have, and they've got this really strong relationship with our other partner on the ground, in Mozambique, and they've been working together for something like 30 years. So there's a good amount of kind of uh, confidence that I've got in that relationship and their ability to execute on projects. And so it just made sense. It's exactly the target market
Yeah.
that we're looking to address. Um, so we went with them and built this, well, hopefully very successful project.
That was my next question actually about because you said the pilot's been going on for a few months. How are the
Yeah.
initial results looking?
So we haven't actually put anything down on the ground yet. So the
Oh,
project's
you're
been
just in the
going.
construction phase.
Yeah, the project's been going for a month. So this is a 2-year development project, where we will be first of all building one system in the UK in order to prove that, everything can be built and, improve the design so that it works with, uh, the communities that we're looking at in Mozambique, and then that will also give us a test bed to do any development work on the product back in the UK where our design team is going to be based. After that's been built, we will go out to Mozambique and build 2 systems there and install them into, 2 schools within Beirut City, and then we'll be doing a lot of kind of monitoring and analysis of the data that comes in from that, and really understanding the the needs of the users. In fact, we're working with a couple of other kind of support partners in order to get some data collection tools up and running so that we can, get kind of almost instantaneous feedback from our users on the performance of our system, which will be essential in kind of evaluating our impact.
It sounds like an incredible business, and it sounds like something that's incredibly exciting to be a part of. Because it's changing people's lives. These are real people, and I guess with a lot of businesses, yeah, I mean that doesn't always happen. So it must be really rewarding for you.
Oh, it's fantastic! I'm really excited to be doing the next steps. We're we're recruiting as well, and we've recently brought on a couple of, employees into the company, and that's also really exciting because it's only really been me, uh, since when I graduated, which was almost 2 years ago now. And so it feels like
Yeah.
there's a lot of momentum happening, and the fact that we're working with these partners, as well, is really bringing kind of a lot of life into the project and the company, and it's exciting to see things take a step forward.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Yeah, no, it sounds incredibly exciting. Where do you kind of see the future of it? Where do you kind of see, I want to say end goal, but
yeah.
I mean, there's so much out there
Oh
for you
yeah.
to tackle now.
Um,
The work's only just begun.
oh, it has. It has. So I mean, our strategy at the Biofactory is an interesting one. What we're planning on doing is working with, delivery partners. So similar to our partner in Mozambique at the moment, we're looking to work with NGOs or companies that have long-term, experience within small communities, in sub-Saharan Africa. So, that way we can really understand kind of the needs of their users, and kind of really get to grips with a strategy on how to implement our systems at a large scale. And this way we can, well, with these partners we are working on, a financing method in order to leverage large institutional funds in order to cover the capital requirement to put these systems in. And then over a period of about 3 years, our delivery partners can recover their investment through biogas sales, and then generate a recurring
Yeah.
income for them in the future. And hopefully with this business model, and this financial incentive for these companies, we can implement a large amount of systems across a relatively small region in a very quick amount of time. So our partner on the ground, they're called Adel Safala, but they they don't have a huge amount of funding available to them because it's all based on project work. But doing it this way, they can have access to a large amount of cash in order to put a lot of systems in place quickly. And with them, we've figured out that the capacity for Beira City is about 1,500 systems, and that's just in one city with about 500,000 people.
How quickly would the return on investment be for like the delivery partners to invest in one of these structures?
Yeah, so we're looking at selling each system for about 15 grand, and that sounds like quite a lot of money, but when you consider building improved constructed toilets, for the same amount of people, it's actually about the same.
Yeah.
So if you think just an improved toilet system, for 250 people, which is what our system serves, that's only maybe a couple of grand less than what we're selling our systems for. And considering that each one of our systems generates about 6.5 grand of biogas per year, they can use that money to not only cover the maintenance and cleaning costs associated with each system, but they can repay their loan very easily over about a period of 3 years. And then
Wow.
any money generated after
That's
that,
better than a lot of other investments.
yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And then any money they generate after that 3 year period is goes back towards cleaning the system, or they can use it to do other development projects, or they can use it to
Yeah.
expand their company operation within the area, and really kind of have a much, well, I was going to say threefold uh, increase in their activity, but that depends on who they
Forget
are.
all the other investments. This is where it's at. Poo is where it's at.
Yeah, tell me about it. Should keep promoting that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was such a pleasure meeting you, and speaking about the biofactories. It's definitely a business that I will follow because I love your mission, and I really wish you the best of success moving forward.
That's awesome, Sina. Thank you very much for having me. Really, really enjoyed this time talking with you. I hope your listeners has found it just as interesting as I have.
I'm sure they have. I'm sure they have. How can people stay in touch with you and the biofactory?
So we're actually pretty bad at our social media, and apologies about that. We're quite a small team, and I'm not. I'm more focused on other things. But we do have a website that it would be great if people could check out. Got a lot more information about what we're doing and the problems with energy and sanitation, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. So that web address is the-biofactory.com.
I'll put the link in the description.
I'm sure you can put the link in the description. That would be great.
Yeah, don't worry.
And then also follow us on LinkedIn, is where we probably post the most. And we'll be hoping to do a lot more as the development project goes ahead, and we'll get a lot more media content available through pictures and videos and all sorts. So yeah, follow us on there. That'd be great.
Sounds amazing.
Oh, and if any of your listeners have any useful links for us, that would be fantastic. Any personal connections with people that we might be interested in talking to, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
We've got contact details on the website for anyone who wants to reach out.
Sounds amazing. Thanks again, Eoin.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Millennial Entrepreneur podcast. It was an amazing talk with Eoin from Biofactory. Absolutely amazing, and definitely check him out on LinkedIn and Facebook because he's got an amazing product and it's definitely going to expand in the future. I've also got another opportunity for you guys. If you are an entrepreneur with a startup idea looking for a place to pitch, I'm actually applying somewhere It's called the MSD UK Innovation Challenge, and they're looking for startups and scale-ups that can pitch from categories like advanced digital technologies, healthcare and well-being, sustainable futures, and social innovation. For the opportunity to pitch in front of global brands and investors, there's big prizes involved as well. So previous winners have been offered scholarships to attend Ivy League's Tuck School of Business in Dartmouth. There's corporate mentoring from Accenture and tailored introductions from with global brands to support growth. So yeah, I'm definitely applying, and the application is closed on the 29th of May. I'll put that link in the description. Thanks for listening again, and my name is Messina Sadzada. I'll see you in the next episode.